Hello and welcome to MSc 402 Project Management. My name is Dale Deerdorf. I'm your facilitator, instructor, and coach for all of the sessions that we're going to be going through. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you a good overview of the new PMBOK. This is an optional, add-on type of video. It's just meant to give you more of a familiarity about the difference between the old PMBOK and the new one. And you may be saying, well, so what? There's a pretty dramatic difference, and that's what I want to walk you through. We are using the 7th edition that came out late in 2021. So you're going to see that there are a lot of different changes. Everything is kind of customized in a different way. There are certain terms that are being used that weren't used previously, and I just want I just want you to get a good, comfortable feeling of what the difference between the two is. So if we take a look at the two, the big thing is that in the old book, let's just show you, here's the new PMBOK, it's that thick. Here's the old PMBOK, it's that thick. So there was a reduction of, from 750 pages to 274 pages, broken into two sections. The first section is up in the front end, so you'll be able to go to the front end of your book and you'll notice that it is focused on this particular area, the standard for project management. And then the second piece in the back end, about a third of the way down, you're going to jump into another section, and that's going to be the guide to project management body of knowledge. There's two separate sections in here, so you're going to see redundancies in some of the page numbering, but I think I've clarified that for you. Let's go ahead and jump in and just talk about what the biggest changes are. The big change is that the old PMI PMBOK was process-based. Everything was a process-based. If you optimized the process and found a way for your organization to follow that series of steps, theoretically you were in compliance and you were optimizing your project based upon the PMBOK and the PMI standards. Now, there's been tremendous discussion, argumentation, conversation about whether or not that made as much sense as moving to a new philosophy. The new philosophy is a focus on value, customer value based on project performance, and the opportunity to tailor any of the pieces of it to make them fit your organization, because one size does not fit all, which means that if you're working on a construction project, it's going to have a different flavor to it. It's going to need different tailoring than if you're working on a high technology type of project for, say, a satellite company, or if you're working in the pharma environment and you're on something that has a tremendous amount of FDA oversight. The process there will be definitely different. So that's three entirely different flavors that you're going to have, and you'll be able to see that the 7th edition really pushes the standard for project management balanced upon two different pieces. Those pieces are going to be project performance domains, and you can see these domains listed here. So you have a relationship that they say between the principles of project management and these domains. The combination of those two is going to guide your behavior. You can see in the illustration here, the principles of project management as they illustrate them now have a formulated line. That second line down that is in white talks about tailoring based on content. You need to recognize, evaluate, and respond to all system interactions, demonstrate leadership behaviors, tailor based on context, and build quality into process and deliverables. That is an excellent explanation of where we're headed, what we're trying to do. And you're going to see that that system for value delivery is based not only upon project, but it's also based upon program. So what they've done is they've really kind of pulled the description of project management all the way up into program management. They start talking about things from a portfolio standpoint. So you can see that the system for value delivery can have multiple levels. It can have an internal environment and it can have an external environment. So they're talking about it. You'll be able to see over here the projects are umbrellaed underneath the programs. From an operations standpoint, they show you that flow. This is something that wasn't prevalent in the previous PMBOK, but it was something that all program and project managers were working with and doing. Now, it also talks about the necessity for everything to have an information flow. Senior leadership at any level builds strategy. That strategy goes off into the portfolio. The portfolio is a process where you are updating and working on multiple projects and programs. So those projects, let's call them projects, are over in the portfolio. That portfolio feeds the program, which feeds operations. Everything is based on operations and based upon bringing value to the customer. So that information flow is key, and this is an example of what that would look like. Now, there's a product life cycle that we've illustrated for you in here, and they've gone away from a different way of illustrating it over here into showing you multiple projects. And then you can add to projects, you can put more features into projects, you can create revisions to them, but that flow moves from program A to program B, and that's referred to as portfolio governance. Okay? And you'll be able to see that this flow that we're showing is based upon the introduction stage, the growth stage, the maturity, and then the decline and retirement of a project as it moves across time. And the process usage, sales, and impact happens, as you can see, in a bow wave over as we move from the end of one project or the end of one program over into the beginning of the next one. Okay? Now, in a nutshell, this is what we're doing. We're taking the project management principles that they've identified for you in the PMBOK. So there's a series of project management principles that are based in here that we're going to unveil for you, and they've blended those together with general management principles. So there's leadership and management activities that they have expanded upon. There are certain elements that were never talked about previously. VUCA, the VUCA environment, volatility, uncertainty, chaos, ambiguity, how we handle that, not only from a development of the project and how we address scope, adding to it the opportunity to bring in lean and agile and Kanban type of activities, all the way over into how we handle it from a risk perspective, negative and positive risks, how we create burn down and burn up plans, dashboards. All of these are new principles that weren't described previously that are in this new one. So let's just talk about some of these new principles because they are important. We've always known these were important. They hadn't been articulated. So these are new. So the first one is stewardship. Stewards act responsibly to carry out the activities with integrity, care, and trustworthiness while maintaining compliance with internal and external guidelines. You are a steward for the organization. You are a steward for your company. You are a steward for the people that work with you, for you, and that are connected to you, whether they are internal and external. So stewardship is a principle that is very, very, I'll call it important, and it's something that wasn't pulled out previously, but they talk about be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. Excellent. The next one is going to be working on the team. How do we pull the team together? So it's more than just putting a team charter together and trying to have a team rah-rah meeting. There's a whole level of, I'll call it, leadership, management, and team-based activity that must happen. Project teams are made up of individuals who wield diverse skills, knowledge, and experience. You have to find a way to capitalize that. The way you optimize that and the more effective and efficient you are with your project teams, the more performance-based value you will be bringing to your customers. So remember that. So create a collaborative project team environment. Collaboration, a term that was not used previously, used now. The next piece of it is we now talk about our stakeholders, internal, external, and how we effectively engage with stakeholders. We need to engage stakeholders proactively and to the degree needed to contribute to project success and customer satisfaction. And much of that is done by tailoring how you interact with those stakeholders. So remember, you need to effectively engage with your stakeholders, both internal and external. The next piece we're going to talk about is that value on focus, that focus on value. You need to continually evaluate, and look at the business objectives to see, are you bringing the value that is necessary? That is critical for you. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization to make sure you're providing the best bang for their buck, and that you are, as that steward, looking at where we're spending our money, where we're spending our time. Are we driving forward in a positive direction? Ultimately, project teams evaluate progress and adapt to maximize the expected value. You're the driver of that. Don't forget that. Systems thinking is something that we've always known is tied into how project management works, but it has never been pulled out as being an important principle. So it is a project management principle to recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions. And system interactions are based upon not only the system, the super system, and the subsystem. It's that whole flow. System thinking entails taking a holistic view of how project parts interact with each other and with external systems. There are connections and interconnections that are leveraged by you as a project manager. So you need to be, responsive to system interactions that will allow project teams to leverage positive outcomes. The next piece we're going to talk about is leadership. Project leadership, program leadership. It's blended together, but it is based upon the leadership, the leadership guidance that we get from other resources. So we drive you to other resources. Leadership is different than authority. Effective leaders adapt their style to the situation. And there are multiple leadership styles that you will use on a project. Most of you will have 3 leadership styles that you'll float in between. You need to understand that there are a variety of them that can help you in different situations. If you're in a situation where there's high conflict, a certain leadership style is better. If you are in a production mode environment, a different leadership style may be more accurate. So remember that. Leaders demonstrate the desired behavior in areas of honesty, integrity, and ethical conduct. Those are the 3 you must have. Demonstrate leadership behaviors. The next piece of it is that piece I talked about earlier where we tailor. Anything that is in here can be tailored based on the context. What makes sense for you? Each project is unique. Each project is different. Project success is based on adapting to the unique context of the project to determine the most appropriate methods to produce the desired outcomes, which means that you can take desktop instructions if necessary and implement those as part of the process flow. You can take the deliverable process documentation and potentially adapt it, tailor it, find a way to where it works within your organization, for your people, for your needs, without destroying ASQ 9100, ISO 9000, CMMI, certifications, that are based on your organization. You want to have I'll call it governance and the environment using just enough process to achieve the desired outcome while maximizing value, managing cost, and enhancing speed. Everything is based upon trying to make the project journey as seamless as possible based on how you can move your organization forward in a positive direction. Now, let's talk about quality. Maintain a focus on quality that produces deliverables that meet the project objectives and align to the needs. You must find a way to build quality into all the processes and deliverables. And quality is something that you can adjust. There's a certain level of that tailoring we were talking about before. You can find a way to adjust it. If you're working on a biopharma project that has tremendous FDA oversight, that quality is going to be very stringent based upon must statements, shall statements, the contract, how we do our verification and validation. If you're working on a construction site and the project there, quality has a different flavor. It's based upon personal inspections, inspectors coming out, verification and validation that something has been done. So there are different flavors of quality. Don't forget that. Now, one thing that has always been there that we've always struggled with is complexity. And complexity is really tough because you have to navigate complexity. Sometimes you're put on a project that has never, ever, ever been done before. I give you the example of somebody comes back and says, here's a 6-week project that we've put together. We're going to make you the project manager. You're going to go over and solve anti-gravity. We need you to solve anti-gravity for us, and you'll be delivering this widget, in 6 weeks. And you look at it and you start laughing. Then you come back to your sanity and say, okay, well, let's just look at this. What are the system interactions of uncertainty and ambiguity that we need to define so that we can then create scope statements, so that we can then create the details necessary as far as requirements, then create the communication, stakeholders, risk, and technical innovations that can make that achievable. So don't forget, you're going to be navigating complexity. The next piece of it is risk. You want to optimize your risk responses, both to positive risks and negative risks. Positive risks have a shorter lifestyle. They can become available to you and your team possibly just today for the next hour. If you make this move, you can move forward in a positive direction, achieving something that you couldn't if you wait till tomorrow. Those are the kind of things, positive opportunities that need to be addressed, and there's a series of approaches to that. And negative threats. These are the things that can destroy your project, that can take you off the rails. So you need to have a risk register. You need to understand how risk responses work. You need to understand how to create a burn down, a burn up plan, what dashboards can come in to help you. The next piece of it is going to be called adapting or embracing adaptability and resilience. Adaptability is the ability to respond to changing conditions, and resilience is the ability to absorb those impacts, that constant change that's happening, and to recover quickly from a setback or a failure. You need to create a focus on the outcome rather than the outputs that facilitate the adaptability. So don't forget, build adaptability and resilience in your organization and your project teams. Okay? The next piece we're going to talk about, we alluded to it previously, is change. Change is around us on a project every day. Every day you come into work is going to be a different day. You may have gone to bed last night thinking you were going to come in, and this morning it was going to be this, and boom, something happens. Change is constant. You need a structured approach to change that helps individuals, groups, and the organization transition from the current state to a future desired state, which means you need to be able to then evaluate a gap in between there. There's a gap analysis that must be created. Change can originate not only from internal influences or external, and it can be a combination of the two interacting with each other that cause that change. So remember that stakeholder engagement and motivational approaches assist in change adoption. Okay? Attempting too much change in a very short period of time can lead to change fatigue, resilience, pushback, people just saying, I just can't take it anymore. So remember, it's got to be something that's acceptable. Our next piece we're going to talk about is moving into some of the other areas. So we've gone ahead and approached those. Now I want to talk about domains. These are different domains that have been described for you in the PMBOK. These were not previously in there, but they are things that as a project manager we always knew we did. So they've created them as domains. This is the development approach domain. From a hybrid project of development, there is a philosophy of incremental, progressively developing features and functions as you move along. That's that bottom flow. The other opportunity is if you bring the customer in and the customer says, I need a method to capture ideas that might create change. Evolutionary acquisition, continuous process improvement, ways that you're optimizing things. If you're using the Deming-Schuhart model and looking at plan, do, study, act, and making those opportunities to make changes and shifts, you're iterating. Try different ideas to clarify scope, approaches, and requirements, and you'll see as you move through that top flow, there is constant feedback and adaptation that is necessary. Now, that is the development approach domain. The next one is going to be talking about fast tracking. We are constantly going to be looking at the opportunity to create what we call project compression. Projects are notorious for running over schedule. What you need to do is you need to create your project in such a way to where you have fast tracking logic. If there's an opportunity to work something ahead of time and we can fast track it, and I've got the resources for it now, I want to do that because ultimately what that will do is it will reduce my critical path. Reducing the critical path will ultimately reduce the project schedule. So that's the planning performance domain. The next piece we're going to talk about are dashboards, the criticality of dashboards. As you start looking at lean and agile environments, you're going to notice that they have virtual dashboards everywhere. Visual dashboards up, and they can tell you what is happening on a constant basis, where everybody's at. They may have a lean walk the wall board that lays out stories, and it lays out all of the components necessary to really understand how we flow from one shift to another. And you have those meetings from a lean Six Sigma perspective. You're implementing all of those tool sets in there because they can help you. You may have an entirely different system set up if you're working in Lean and Six Sigma, where you have Kanban boards, and that Kanban board creates user stories, and those user stories start to show you how one piece evolves into the other, into the other, into the other, and as you flow across delivering this to your customer, you are iterating things in this format. These are project visual controls. This is in the measurement performance domain. Now, we talked earlier about risks, and we talked about the positive and negative risks. It isn't just a single snapshot in time. It is a profile that you create. And as you can see here, it's a threat profile that gives you the ability to burn down your risks over time, to give yourself a higher degree of success, the optimization of the ability to success. So there are risk management strategies that are laid out for you in this particular document. The final piece we're going to kind of pull at and then move through in a couple different ways is going to be steps for tailoring. And this is going to fall out of that tailoring performance domain. And you're going to see that they recommend 4 different steps. The tailoring steps are going to be selecting the approach that you want to use, tailor it for the organization, tailor it for the project, and implement ongoing improvements, continuous process improvement as you flow through. Those are all required to really have this robust flavor of being able to tailor. And you'll be able to see that you have your project management domains interacting with all of the other elements, the principles of project management in this architecture. Now, we've also created models, methods, and artifacts at the back end in section 4. In section 4, you're going to find different models. You're going to find different appendixes and different recommendations for you on how you can improve and move forward. Now, that's my presentation for you on the new PMBOK. My recommendation is this is going to be so valuable to you. You know, not that the previous version wasn't, but this particular document is one you're going to want to keep around, have it available all the time, okay? Have a great week. Enjoy. Bye-bye.